The lights over Groom Lake weren't supposed to be seen by the public. In 1989, a man named Bob Lazar stepped into the public eye with claims that would become one of the most debated UFO stories in modern history. He said he had worked at a hidden facility known as S4, a site he claimed existed near Area 51 in Nevada. According to Lazar, the purpose of the program was extraordinary: to reverse engineer non-human technology. Lazar claimed he was brought into the project because of his scientific background and because the craft's propulsion system involved principles that conventional physics struggled to explain. He described seeing several dish-shaped vehicles inside secure hangars allegedly built into the mountainside near Papoose Lake. And according to his account, these craft did not fly using wings, jet engines, or traditional propulsion. Instead, he claimed they manipulated gravity itself. One detail in particular would follow him for decades: Element 115. Lazar stated that the propulsion system relied on a then unknown element capable of generating enormous energy and gravitational effects. At the time, Element 115 had not yet been publicly synthesized by scientists. Years later, a version of it would eventually be created in laboratories and added to the periodic table under the name Moscovian. Supporters argue this gave Lazar credibility. Skeptics point out that the laboratory-created element is highly unstable and behaves nothing like the material Lazar described. And that divide between possibility and contradiction became one of the central arguments surrounding the case. Lazar also described intense security procedures at the facility: hand scanners, compartmentalized access, strict surveillance. He claimed test flights of the craft took place on specific nights in the Nevada desert. Some of those alleged test flights were reportedly witnessed by friends Lazar brought near the area. His appearances on Las Vegas television reporter George Knapp's broadcasts helped push the story into mainstream public attention. At first, Lazar appeared anonymously under the name Dennis, with his identity concealed. Months later, he revealed himself publicly and repeated the claims under his real name. And from that point onward, the story exploded. But almost immediately, serious questions began emerging about Lazar's background. He claimed to possess advanced degrees from both MIT and Caltech. However, researchers, journalists, and investigators were unable to verify records showing he attended either institution. Lazar also struggled to provide verifiable details about fellow students or lecturers connected to those alleged periods of study. One instructor he named was later found to have taught at Pierce Junior College, not Caltech. Investigators also examined Lazar's claims about working as a physicist at Los Alamos National Laboratory. While records indicated Lazar had connections to the facility through a contractor, critics argue there was no confirmed evidence he worked there as a physicist in the role he described. That distinction became another major fault line in the debate. Supporters viewed the partial records as evidence something about Lazar's history had been concealed. Skeptics viewed them as evidence that key parts of his story had been exaggerated or fabricated. Lazar himself claimed that government agencies erased portions of his educational and employment history after he went public. Critics have repeatedly challenged that explanation as implausible, and over time, the story became less about one simple claim and more about competing interpretations of credibility itself. Was Lazar describing genuine classified aerospace research? Had he mixed fragments of reality with speculation and embellishment? Or had he created one of the most convincing modern UFO narratives ever told? The controversy surrounding Lazar extends beyond his UFO claims. In 1990, he pleaded guilty to charges connected to involvement in a prostitution-related operation in Nevada. Years later, a company associated with Lazar faced legal penalties connected to the shipping of restricted chemicals and fireworks components across state lines. Critics argue these incidents damaged his credibility further. Supporters often counter that personal history does not automatically disprove the possibility of hidden government programs, and that tension between the man himself and the story he tells remains impossible to fully separate. Over the decades, Lazar continued making public appearances in documentaries, interviews, podcasts, and conferences discussing Area 51 and alleged extraterrestrial technology. His story helped transform Area 51 from a relatively obscure military location into one of the most recognizable conspiracy subjects in the world. Ironically, Area 51 itself was once officially denied by the US government before later being publicly acknowledged as a real military testing site. For some people, that fact alone keeps a small part of Lazar's claims alive in their minds, because if one secret turned out to be real, what else might still remain hidden? But despite decades of debate, no verified evidence proving alien technology has ever been publicly produced. No confirmed craft, no released propulsion system, no scientific demonstration supporting the extraordinary claims Lazar described. Only testimony, contradictions, fragments of documentation, questions surrounding his past, and a story that continues to exist in the uneasy space between classified technology, conspiracy culture, and modern mythology. Because whether Bob Lazar witnessed something extraordinary or created one of the most enduring UFO narratives ever told, his story permanently changed the public conversation surrounding Area 51. And perhaps that is why the question still survives all these years later. What if even part of his story was true?